think anything Peeping Tom is bad.
So you're saying Peeping Tom only has negative connotations?
Time out. Peeping Tom is if you are staring into someone's private residence.
That's exactly.
If you are out in public and people are looking at you, get your ass out of public if you have a problem with it. Like that's this gym video thing.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that.
Oh, it's been going on for I'm sorry that people are looking at you in a public space.
Peeping Tom, a person who derives sexual pleasure from secretly watching people undress.
So Peeping Tom only has negative connotations.
That is according to the Oxford Dictionary.
The gym drop that Scott just mentioned was it's this meme, I think, if you may, going on social. In particular, I'm seeing it on Twitter, where staring at folks that are beautiful at the gym in their workout attire, which is revealing. Is that wrong or right? Right? That was the gist.
That's
the
gist.
So I can tell you,
some folks are now saying that is very, very, very wrong.
It's just,
that you cannot visually admire, if you may.
So it's
visually admire.
I don't know how we got on this topic.
It's real talk.
But
real talk.
So in my office is the Charlottesville Ballet, and as I walk in and out, I watch the ballet folks.
Okay.
And the beginning of it, I was like purposely not looking. I looked straight ahead because I didn't want to look over to the right.
Okay.
And then I said, how stupid is that? These people are athletes, and I wanted to watch their athletes. And I watched them do that. Nobody thought it was creepy.
I don't think that's creepy.
It shouldn't be creepy.
That's not creepy.
Anyway,
that is not creepy.
Not everything is creepy. Not everything has to be taken in the absolute worst context, but that is where we are.
But this guy could have been a Peeping Tom. I'm just saying. He could have been visualizing.
Well, now we know that Peeping Tom has nothing but negative connotations.
It has, according to Oxford Dictionary. Let's see what Merriam-Webster has to say.
So, well, why don't we get the cameras on here? Well said, Judah Wickower. Unfortunately, no one heard you say that. It was a hysterical comment, but guess what happened? He didn't
have his microphone
on. The volume wasn't on.
Judah, the microphone.
Literally the funniest thing.
Look at this, he's turning red.
The funniest thing he's ever said on the I Love Seville Network, and no one heard him say it.
So
that was the funniest thing you've ever said in your entire life, and no one heard you say it right there. Didn't have your microphone on. All right, let's
hey, Judah, would you mind putting the microphone in
Please,
front of you?
because you
add
to the show.
Pearls of wisdom.
No doubt.
You say.
I've been saying this. We can rock and roll when you're ready. That's the best start to the program we've ever had. Any program we've ever had. Started with Peeping Tom. All right, Judah Wickower, we're in your hands.
Quiet on the set.
That's interesting.
Good Wednesday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. It's the show that spotlights real estate, life, the pursuit of happiness, and the connotations of Peeping Toms. It's a Wednesday morning. We're live in downtown Charlottesville. We're presented by Ross Mortgage. Scott Morris is in the house. This guy is a friend and certainly someone who knows the business inside and out. Judah Wickower is our well-spoken and very loud director who contributes to the program on a frequent basis. Keith Smith, the star of the show, his namesake website, realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Good Wednesday morning, Keith.
Yeah, I'm still researching Peeping Tom. Sorry. Was I supposed to pay attention?
I figured you were. This is how the show started. There was a guy across the street, across the hallway in the spectacle shop that was staring at us through their door. Is that a Peeping Tom or not? We've decided no, it's not.
Well, it's interesting because Webster says a prying person as a
Right, that's the second or third definition. That's why I was wondering. So what he was doing was certainly prying. So that could have been Peeping Tom activity.
But isn't Peeping Tom an actual criminal offense?
Is that how they actually write the law? Maybe, yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
If you're trespassing into somebody's property, and I think that might be although who knows what they have it written as at this point. That's probably county to county.
So the etymology of it goes all the way back to Lady Godiva, a legendary citizen of Coventry who watched Lady Godiva ride naked.
We have the voice of God, otherwise known as Judah Wickhauer, about to contribute to the program. Judah.
Virginia.gov. Code, 18.2-130, peeping or spying into dwelling or enclosure.
There you go.
All right, let's
Shall be
They
unlawful.
define that as peeping
let's
Tom.
charge that man at the optical place.
There you go. There you go. Thank you,
And
Judah
the hell
Wickhauer.
with real estate. Let's go and do that.
It shall be unlawful for any person to use a peephole or other aperture to secretly or furtively peep, spy, or attempt to peep.
Most famous abuse of a peephole, anyone remember? In American pop culture history? Scott's probably going to get this.
No.
Most famous abuse of a peephole.
Erin Andrews.
There it is.
What?
See, I knew you were not going to get it. I knew you were not going to get it. I knew he was.
Erin Andrews was a sports reporter.
She was
for
a
ESPN.
sports talking head for ESPN and anchor.
I was going to say
one
say
shot.
Porky's.
Yeah. Now a sideline reporter for Fox. She had somehow her her peephole at her hotel room inverted or turned backwards, and someone captured video of her in our hotel. I'd say that was maybe 5 or 7 years ago. The things you learn here on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Good morning, Kevin Yancey. Good morning, folks from Crozet, Lynchburg, downtown Charlottesville, Pantops, Keswick, and Richmond on the heat map. Richmond was the topic of conversation on Monday. Scott, listen to this. Keith's daughter, gorgeous lady, youngest daughter of Keith and Yona, lives in Seattle. She's coming from Seattle to Virginia. She has a 2-month-old, 3-month-old daughter.
3 months as of the 7th of this month.
3-month-old daughter. Her husband, and we have permission to talk about this.
Yeah,
He's-
sure,
okay.
sure.
Her husband, Houston, is
When
a
has
doctor.
that ever stopped us? But anyway, that's,
I'm not speaking out of turn. Her husband, Houston, is a doctor, heavy hitter doctor. We're talking the doctor that's
He's a
making
doctor.
some real good bank.
he
Certainly has medical
he earned
debt.
it. He earned it.
He earned it, right? They put an offer on a house in Richmond. They're moving from Seattle to Richmond, as you know. This is the 11th offer they put on that a house in Richmond. It was a FaceTime walkthrough of the house
In the rain.
in the rain. They're in Seattle. Keith on his phone walking through a house in Richmond. Waive home inspection. Appraisal gap of how much?
75,000.
$75,000 appraisal gap, West End, Richmond. They don't see the house in person. $75,000 over appraisal gap, and no home inspection. And what happened, Keith?
Lost it.
Lost it.
I tell you,
Crazy market.
Back to, well, micro markets matter, and I've been saying this forever, and we'll talk about this a little bit later with Scott. Not forever. I've been saying this since about the beginning of the fourth quarter of last year, that micro markets are going to matter, because if you go 4 or 5 blocks from a different direction of this, it's a very different market.
LeVar Stoney, the mayor, did you see the news?
I did not.
He straight up said, he announced declaration, Richmond, we have a housing crisis. That was 2 or 3 days ago.
Well,
You're seeing it.
we're living it, and we're going to talk about it nationally and all this kind of great stuff. But we are having a housing crisis. I want to make this about Scott today, right? Your contact to contract, you've gotten a ton of contacts, but converting to contract has been super difficult. So this conversation about what's happening in Richmond is non-exclusive to Richmond. It's happening here, very specific locations. Buckingham, we talked about, is quite the opposite, right? But everything else is, if it's priced right in the right location, right features and condition, it matters.
So when we talk about adjoining counties, I mean, even in that, in Buckingham, maybe it's a bit of a one-off, being it's a little more remote, but Powhatan, Goochland, Louisa, Madison, Spotsylvania, Orange, these are all areas that it's still hyper-competitive in.
Yeah. I think the thing with Buckingham, the difficulty for us anyway, it's like split up to like 4 or 5 different MLSs. It's really,
I mean, and it gets bizarre. Like when you're just on the other side of the bridge from Scottsville, certainly that's going to be hotter than say there's a national park out there where there's nothing.
So in the department of who number 6th, right? Of my famous 6, who's on the other side matters. The 8 of the 11 offers, this was the first agent that responded to me for request of feedback, right? We lost it, please provide us feedback. And she actually did a wonderful job, and to me, puts her in the pro category.
Oh, that was as professional. Can I say
Go ahead.
that?
Yeah,
I can say this?
I don't know what you're going to say.
That was as professional a response as I've seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
she did not have to do that.
She did not. I asked.
Yeah, that was legit.
I established a relationship with her. Maybe that's wrong. Business relationship. Mrs. Smith, we're good. Maybe not, but we're good.
We're good.
She listed out, right? Had 23 offers. Offers between list price and $475.7. Offers between $475 and $1 and $550 was 13. By the way, we were in that category.
There was 23 offers. Let me try to make this really understandable for the viewers and listeners. There was 23 offers on this house. The list price was what?
$450.
How many of the 23 offers had escalators over 450?
Over 450, all of them.
Okay. How many had escalators over 475?
13.
How many over 500?
550. There was 3 over 550.
Okay.
So it was
3 over 550, ladies and gentlemen.
3 over
And
550.
we're not even going to make the statement that the agent in Richmond came out of the gate low to solicit this kind of competition.
I don't think so.
You're basically telling me that this agent in Richmond mispriced this by over 20%.
She did not. And
So, by the way, this
Jump
isn't
in.
just this property. I have 6 other pre-approved buyers in the Richmond area shopping between 450 and 700 who this is the story every single week.
This sounds worse than Charlottesville. What's happening here? Now, are
For
your
the price,
6...
for the price point, it's also neighborhood exclusive. These are people who
West
for the
End,
most-
Richmond?
No,
Really?
Midlothian. That doesn't
Wow.
matter. But when they get locked into a school district or a certain area or a neighborhood that they've decided that is ideally where they want to be. But the problem is, if you want to get into a like neighborhood or a like school district, you're bouncing back and forth to the. It's you can have this problem. In one area and then say, well, I'm willing to explore this and run into the same problem somewhere else.
So the reason this looks worse or sounds worse, we're literally having the same thing happen here. Just the volume's decreased. This neighborhood that this particular home in is called Bellevue. It's 1,500 homes. Just this little neighborhood within the city of Richmond, right? That's just 1,500 homes. There's not a single neighborhood in the city of Charlottesville that has 1,500 homes in it, right? So it's just
In the city.
in the city, right?
Okay.
Right. When you get outside of that, what subdivision that has 1,500 other than the lake has 1,500 homes?
I mean, we've talked about this.
Crows.
Where's Old Trail?
Old Trails.
Old Trail's probably flirting with 1,500.
Yeah, I would say pretty darn close. to it.
Forest Lakes is probably flirting with 1,500.
Yeah, correct.
Glenmore's 850. That's half.
Yeah.
What else? I mean,
So there's a half a dozen, 4.
am I missing any here?
Are you counting that? How many? What's those townhome units right at the front gate?
Of Glenmore?
Yeah.
That's Rivanna Village. I'm not counting those. And they also have single family detached. In fact, the first units are now trading in that neighborhood. The ones that were purchased are now trading for the first time.
Yeah.
And we're talking units that were built 3-4 years ago where these people are making 25-30% return on their money in 3-4 years.
So here's the takeaway from the beginning of the Richmond conversation. And it's really not exclusive to Richmond. And I want to tie it into this contact to contract thing.
Mm-hmm.
Stay in the game, right? We're at number 11 for these kids. Literally, when I gave them the news, 10 minutes later, I had, what about this house? What about this house? What about this house? They are staying in the game. They will win eventually. It'll take us a little time, but they eventually will win, and it'll turn into a contract.
Here's a question. This is sizzle reel. Here's a sizzle reel for both fellas. This is an important one.
Fellas.
When in this market, when you are like Keith and Yona, their daughter, is now 11 offers in and is 0 for 11. Does your strategy change when you're making offer 12, 13, 14, 15 when compared to offers 1, 2, and 3?
you want to kick that off? Or you would like me to
No,
kick
you
it off?
definitely kick that off.
So, yes and no, right? Consistency matters, right? But you start looking at, okay, do we now need to start growing our circumference, right? So if this particular neighborhood isn't working, we want to go ahead and go out that way. It's these 6 things I constantly talk about, right? So, if the location that we're at isn't working because price, features, and condition, we're losing it, then we got to kind of start looking at different locations. But it takes a while to get there. In this particular case, we've got time, or we've got till September 1. If your time, which is number 5, is I got to get it done now, then your strategy has to be a little bit more aggressive. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know how more aggressive we could have been on that transaction other than bring more cash to the table.
Until inventory improves, the compromise will be in location. Because you can go all the way, if you're going out and making your truly highest and best offer in an environment where the competition is only getting stronger due to the limited amount of product that is available, you've got to go where, if you were starving and you showed up every day to fight the same 5 guys for this orange on this orange tree, but you realized you could walk a little further, that's how that's as humans how we're built. You're gonna go to where you can eat, and they're gonna go to where they find success, and that's the migration is what's gonna drive that. What's available in what areas, and where can they actually land?
Explain this to me, and this is great
I'm
content.
going to disagree with that.
Okay, and jump in.
Okay.
How is this? I'm gonna throw a definition out there without using the word. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. How is what's being done now not insanity? You were on offer 12.
Yeah, so we're not doing the same thing over and over, and the little bit of the pushback that I'm going to give to my dear friend and family member, as far as I'm concerned, he may think differently, Scott over there. We are now looking at condition and features a little bit more, right? Say, okay, fine, back to your 203K, right?
Or any kind of renovation product. So that's another.
So that's what we're now looking at. We're looking at because over these 12 houses, house 2 and 3, they immediately took off the list. Oh my God, has too much work. Now the conversation is ooh, let's go look if that's still back on the market, and now go to Scott and say, hey, can I get a renovation loan? And oh, by the way, Dad, agent, do a CMA for me and find out if I buy this for $450 and put $200,000 in it, am I overbuilding for the market? And the answer is no to that question, by the way. So now that's what we're starting to look at. Is okay, great. This is the neighborhood, right? This is your location. This is the school system, which is important to them that they want to be in. So now let's start taking a look at features and conditions. Reach out to Scott and say, give me some development love.
So the benefit there is, and what we're seeing. There's a lot of investors who have a certain number that they want to hit before they're going to step in, and these properties, for the most part, are pricing outside of that to where they are a reduction in what you're seeing overall. So the prime property that gets all the offers is not this property. People walk in, it doesn't show as well, it just doesn't have the level of interest, and not to mention there is certainly going to be a turn-off to some people for the amount of work that has to be done, especially when they go, well, gosh, if this house is listed for $400,000 and this one's listed for $450,000, gosh, this $450,000 is so much nicer, but the $450,000 sells for $600,000 and the $400,000 sits on market. So, but if they can go in and put the $200,000 worth of work in, then they probably have a $700,000 house all said and done.
That's good stuff.
And that's literally what we're doing now, is looking at that to go, okay, let's look at some homes that need some help, go live with mom and dad for 6 months, and then all of a sudden have something that you're ready in. But this is not, I showed a home yesterday from a client from Richmond over here. It was a $900,000 home. I'll leave out where it is because I don't want to influence it. Yeah, horrible features, horrible condition, right location, way overpriced, and my folks just said that I'm out. They're going to be looking at something.
I just want to characterize or try to put in perspective.
This was in Pantops, by the way.
On Pantops?
Yeah.
Is that Cascadia?
Could be. No, it's outside. It's not in a subdivision.
Okay. I just want to put in perspective how crazy the market is right now. You have a young couple in Seattle with a 3-month-old going to move to Richmond, touring houses over FaceTime, not walking in homes, putting in offers that have escalators $75,000 over the listing price, waiving home inspections,
And losing.
and now 0 for 11 in that approach of trying to buy a house.
Yeah, so
0 for 11.
So to your definition of insanity,
This is crazy.
this is where you bring in your pros.
I totally get
You
that.
bring in Scott, right? You bring in ISC, right? It's a service company and say, hey, this is what I've got to do to the house. What do you think this is going
I
to
guess what I was trying to do is the average person who owns a home may not realize how crazy the market is. And the only reason I know how crazy the
absolutely
market
not.
is
Yeah, no.
is
Totally
because I'm around you guys.
So your average buyer, and that's part of that's part of the inventory lockup. Is people don't understand the value of what they could get if they decide to list. No matter how many mailers show up in their mailbox right now, because
Knocks on the door.
That's happening, but it's not moving the needle because I just don't think that I don't think they understand how tight inventory actually is, and how many people are out there who truly need. The buyers that are coming to market these are need tos. These aren't want tos. So these are people who I need to sell my house and get out into something else. I need, my family is growing. That's what we're seeing. And if they're selling a house, if they're coming from out of market into market, they might be bringing a lot of cash. These are people coming into the market who aren't selling another property, so they're having a hard time getting that foot in the door, because that's what you're seeing bridge the difference or be the winning factor is, okay, I can do all of these things this first-time home buyer can do, and I can bring all this additional cash from this property I just sold.
But that's even getting hard to do. This buyer from Richmond, I can't believe they did this, but their real estate agent in Richmond convinced them to sell their house, which they are closing on.
The buyer in Richmond who's bought the house that your daughter wanted?
No.
Okay.
This is a different buyer. This is the one that I showed last night.
Okay.
That they didn't. They're going to walk out with about $800,000 in cash. They don't have a place to go. This is a retired couple. They sold their house in Richmond because the real estate agent said.
So what do they say? 60 days of staying in the house? Rent back?
No. No, these people are going to be homeless here in about 60 days. when it
So
closes.
they're playing the game of life roulette of here's $800,000 in my bank
Yeah,
account.
and
Give
they're-
me a place to live.
And their answer is I'll just go rent something and put it in storage and wait for something to come up, which is what a lot of buyers are out there right now selling it. This is the first time I've heard it from Richmond going this way, by the way. It's just in my little world. But that's what's going to happen. Just thinking of my friend Kevin Yancey, city of Waynesboro, the cheapest habitable home is $259. There's three others that are like a 69, 139, which are literally, you can't habitate those, but those sales prices are starting at $259.9 and working their way up to $715. There's 14 homes for sale at that price point. So talk about the other side of the mountain.
You got this from Sir Neil Williamson. How does Richmond's 23 competing offers compare with the Charlottesville market? On average, are we seeing multiple competing offers with escalation clauses in our Charlottesville market? Good question.
Yes is the answer to that. To the point where, I think I talked about this last week, we had an incident where property went on at $375. This is over the mountain. And all the offers escalated to $400. So basically they just Monday morning, without accepting anything, came back on and said, hey, $400 is the new price. Bring me your new highest and best finger guns. And then...
Would you do that again?
That was the best thing ever.
really cool.
And
make that more of the show.
then in...
She was effing loving it.
And then here in Charlottesville, we had one that, well, I think it was not in Charlottesville, so in the Albemarle area at 365 that went well over 400, all said and done. And that was with, I believe it was probably close to 20 offers.
Can someone explain to me how the market moves from listing a home to it going under contract 22.5%? How a unit, how a piece of real estate can be listed at 450 and can sell over 575?
I can answer that. I can answer.
Can you?
I can answer that, and this is really a Woody Fincham question, right? That would have been a great question from Woody was here on Monday, but because I questioned the agent, the agents, I said, so tell me how you established your price, and I said I'd like to see your CMA, and they sent it to me, and they used their CMA based on 30 to 60 days behind, and we were having this conversation with our daughter about 30 days from now when all these 600,000 closes and all that stuff, then they're going to go back. So they are doing honest, I think, based on it, honest assessment. And I can tell you, this agent who responded to this, Jerry,
is legit.
You know she's legit.
Oh, she looked legit.
And you know, out of 11 rejections, this was the first agent that said, look, I'm not gonna give you any information I shouldn't, but this is an overview. And literally in our email, she said, I hope this helps you in the future, which was very useful.
Well, yeah, because then you can set expectations with your client, which happens to be your daughter.
Well, we would do
Vanessa
that.
Parkhill, as the mom of Vanessa Parkhill's coming out here, she says, and Vanessa, we love you. She says she's sorry to hear that you lost the bid on the house.
Thank you. But what's exciting about that?
Thank you for watching, Vanessa.
What is exciting about that? They brushed it off. They felt really lousy for about 13 seconds. And within minutes, I got, well, check this house out, check that house out. So they're in the game.
They're in the right mindset, and it's
they understand that this is to own is the right path.
And right, and I respect the hustle and the chutzpah they're showing. That's a mindset that maybe is not shared by all, though, especially after this many attempts.
Yeah, well, you know, he who stays in the game is going to win.
100%.
Who steps out of the game ain't going to win.
I mean, you get that with anything, though.
No, that's what I'm saying.
10,000 shots, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so many, you know, this process, certain people, you know, it's like the person, you watch somebody angry in the checkout line who, you know, or you know, wherever you go, then they do the same thing the next place. It's like the purchase and sales and when selling your house or buying a house, there's a lot of emotion involved. We talked to people in the very beginning about riding the roller coaster. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There'll be, you know, there's things that you're going to deal with in the process that can kind of control and contribute to the turbulence for good and bad. But yeah, everybody handles it a little bit differently.
There you go, 100%.
I've been saying this, how many years? 400 and almost 450 shows. This phone I hold in my hand will never be able to do Scott and my job. It'll never be able to. It's a great tool to, hey, check this house out, check that house out, right? But the Scott's spot on. This is way more emotional, right? You have to have emotional intelligence to really do this job well. You know, and these, you know, my particular daughter and son-in-law's approach is, there is a, geez, we want other people to give up, right? Because we're not, right? So the more people that give up, is the better chance that I have to get what I want, because they're laser focused to make this happen. But they've got a team of pretty trusted advisors that will help them get across the table.
How about this from Sarah Beth in Forest Lakes? Sarah Beth, are you? I believe you're Longwood alumni. Let me know. She says, so for Keith and Scott, and Keith's particular case, does that mean now that the rest of the homes on the street have a value north of $550,000 because this home sold at that price point?
So
are we going to say that now?
Yeah, for sure, because what will happen is once this closes, that is now a comp, right? That is now a comp. And that's back to the point how this agent, which I think honestly did this, because I had a lengthy discussion with her. Yeah, I mean, this is what my comps are showing in this area.
Look, there's
60 days from now, it will be very different.
There's a little neighborhood in Culpeper with probably, I don't know, maybe 150 homes, and they averaged in the upper fives to maybe being six. Somebody listed one at 625 last year, and it was a collective eye roll and moan and groan. And now everything that comes on is 625.
I mean, we did this with Lake Monticello, right? The first home that sold like 1.1 million, whatever it was waterfront. I've been there since 1987.
But these 150, like they're based, they got some variation. There's a little bit of
They're
difference.
the same home.
There.
They're the same
They're
home.
the same house.
Yeah. So that's a big deal. That's
Yeah.
basically saying that's a comp. Set in the market is what he's saying.
And what I'm saying is that first one that sold at 625 set the precedent.
So here we go. You know where I live.
Yeah.
Next door neighbor
Hear that,
home
Jim?
is on the contract for $700,000. I'm loving it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Coach
And
Rateau
it's
Love you,
probably
Monroe.
is
loving it.
not loving it.
Really?
He is not loving it.
Why? Because he's staying there and has to pay the taxes?
There you go.
Yeah.
He's like, his first answer was like, oh, shucks. Because I helped him fight his tax.
Yeah.
Monroe?
Yeah,
Love Monroe.
I helped him fight his
Make
tax.
sure you tell him I said hello.
He watches, so you just said hello to him.
Monroe's the man.
But I said, Coach, I'm not going to help you next year. Next year,
You're going to
Yeah.
sell.
no, next year you're going to be paying because that comp now it'll be hard to go because his particular home is exactly the same as far as square footage is, yada, 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 then that goes.
So the 625, now the price for the neighborhood. The expectation would be if another one goes on the market, we're going to have another bidding war and more escalation. I mean, how do you get ahead of this? And when does the insanity stop?
So I'll let you
What
finish.
puts inventory back on the board? That is what it, and we've talked about this, and I've said it week over week, and today we're starting. It's the MSNBC is scrolling 6.5 as your average 30-year fixed mortgage rate. It's probably a little lower than that, especially if you're conventional, but. Until we get rates into the mid fives, that's what's going to take to move the people from the threes to the fives comfortably with the amount of equity that they're going to have to put this inventory back on the board. But we've got a long road until we get there. And I mean, I think it's this year, but at the same time, we've got many a months of some difficult inventory challenges.
Keith,
So-
well son.
So, we've been talking about new construction shortage forever, and I never really did the math until this morning. So this is per the census data, and this is nationwide, and I kind of did the math. Everybody's throwing how many new construction units we're short, and I'm kind of rallying it back to it. Unless we build more units in the ground, this just is not going to get, inventory is not going to climb. We had 12, at the average, the first 6 years, from 2002 to 2006, on that was roughly 1.2 million. We had 12 years of negative units. We're 3.4 million units short based on my math, and that's only on average. That's
Nationwide.
nationwide. That's not including new people being born, yada, 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 new folks coming in here. Over 20 years, we're running a negative of roughly 3.5 million units nationwide. To Neil Williamson's point, and, I think to a certain degree, Mr. Payne is incorrect. I think you almost got to build your way out of this.
It's not going to happen.
And it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
So these prices are going to
Escalate.
So my daughter and the buyers that we have now is buy now because you're only going to increase year over year.
So walk me through the conversation. Stay with us, mom and dad. You have a newborn baby.
Yeah.
Stay with us for 6 months.
Yeah,
Is that happening?
No, we're going to find because
Okay.
they have to September 1,
Okay.
right? So
When's the move of the lease?
September 1. They need to be in a home by September 1.
Okay.
Right. So the initial conversation with them and the same buyers that we're having conversations now, the initial conversation, well, we'll start looking around June, July. I said, no, we're looking December 1. So we've been looking since December trying to find something. Because it's in that particular market, in those particular locations, back to Scott's location matters on it, that's where we need to be doing it.
Scott, you still think rates are going to get into the fours year end?
I do. I think that I don't think that the Fed's done hiking, and I think that we are in for some type. I think there's something. And so all these things, whenever there's something that really drastic that happens in the economy, it's always the thing that's not seen, or at least maybe it's the thing that's seen but not talked about. I think that we've got. Maybe we don't get there this year, but we've got something coming when it comes to lenders who hold car loans and potentially certain banks with credit cards at some point. That's my prediction. I think
What's that mean?
I think that's where you're starting to see delinquencies pile up, and the cost for. So cars themselves are starting to increase again in the secondary market, meaning like what dealers pay at auction for units. Because when they went through the production problem and the enterprises and their lease units, so their high-end leases didn't get picked up because there was nobody buying new cars. So those cars aren't being circled back into through the dealers and through Manheim, like the big national auctions. And then the enterprises and the Hertz and all of those, they were going direct to dealer to buy new units, and they were also purchasing extremely high mileage units out of the auction market. So the number of miles that are on the cars that are being financed are much higher than normal. So you're going to be seeing increased amount of auto repairs, and typically people are always the last thing that someone's going to walk away from is their auto loan because they got to get to work. But I believe that there is a softening, like there's a danger in that class of finance, and I think that there's going to be something that happens probably related to that as they continue to walk the prime rate up, because I don't think that the 5.25 is the stopping point. I think they go a little bit higher, and I think there's some damage felt somewhere in there.
You see another bump, 25 points?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Oh.
I see two.
Two 25s?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would not disagree with that, but I also agree with you. I think you're going to see the 30-year drop by the end of the year. I really, really do. And I
do. I believe that, but I think there's going to be something. There's going to be a
but it's a roller coaster, man.
Pain point that pushes it there.
So, do you think that delinquency on the credit cards are going to impact the potential home buyer?
So,
undoubtedly with the credit score.
So they put some loan level price adjustments in place that they keep kicking the can down the road on these refis. So really what they're trying to do is they're trying to protect lenders from a bunch of EPOs and potential bankruptcies, but or collapses on the lending side. But they're going to need to have some sort of access for people to dip into this equity if they are credit qualified to do so in order to pay some of these potential dangers that are on the horizon. That, and also there's been floating around social media because an article from last year came out about the 40-year mortgage being a thing.
Yeah.
40-year mortgage is not a thing.
Okay.
So all that is, and the way that works is, it is if you are delinquent on your current mortgage, it is a restructuring into a 40-year. It has not a product that will be originated, period, end of story, no questions.
It's also being offered for the interest timeout, the Mortgage Relief Act that went out.
Abatement?
Thank you. They're offering it
it's all associated with the restructuring if you are in trouble. It is not I want to buy a house, can I get a 40-year mortgage? No, you can't, because nobody's going to give it to you. Because the product itself truly doesn't exist.
Forest Lake South?
Yes.
And Forest Lakes. While everybody was chatting, I just thank you for the viewer, made me think about this. So just took a quick snapshot on what's happening in Forest Lakes right now. 3 homes are for sale. This is south in regular Forest Lakes. 3 homes are for sale right now between 1 and 0 days. So they just hit the market. There are 11 pending. So we've got 3 on the market. We've got 11 pending. So that absorption rate is off the charts.
What are the 3 homes price points?
Blah blah blah. $499 up to $550.
$499 to $550.
That's exactly right. But what's interesting, the median pending price, not sales price at the moment. The meeting pending price is 540, 4 days on market. And that 4 days is a little bit not telling the true story, because typically those homes are under contract a day or two before they actually hit the MLS. So that 4 is probably really 2 from the time that it went on the market till it went under contract. What sold beginning of the year to now in Forest Lake South and regular Forest Lakes, median sales price is 476, 27 days on market, ranging between 374 up to 605 on those 12. So beginning of the year, so that's for a month, right? You've got 3 on there. So if you do your absorption rate, we're on a negative absorption rate, that there's more homes going off market than are coming on. But we got 11 in the pipeline to close.
So I can't be the only one thinking the way I'm thinking about today's CPI data, because we came on and it seemed like good news, and the U.S. 10-year had a huge swing. Now we're basically neutral. Like, it's back to nothing has moved at all. And I think that if you dig deeper into what came out today, the news is less positive than we expected it at 5.1, and it came in at 5. Like, it's not as declining as it seems.
But it's all about the headlines, right?
It is all about
Right,
the
Wall
headlines.
Street
CPI rose to 0.1% in March and 5% from a year ago, below estimates. However, Scott says that's a deceiving headline.
They keep playing with what goes into the numbers.
It excludes food and energy. Core CPI accelerated 0.4% and 5.6% as expected. Energy costs fell and food prices were flat. Used vehicle prices declined. 0.6% increase in shelter costs was the smallest gain since November, but still resulted in prices rising 8.2% on an annual basis. That's the headline, and he's right. Market's neutral right now. You would think they would have moved much more positively, to Scott's point. Keith.
Well, the headline in Wall Street Journal, inflation eases in March, but when you actually read through it, it's exactly as Scott has said. I think my question is, do you think the 2% is even reasonable that the Fed's trying to get to? Is really 2%, maybe is 4% the new 2%?
So they can't come out and say that is the problem.
I think we can, though.
We can. And I've said all along, I think 2% is a pretty
Impossible.
ambitious goal. They printed too much money. There was too much. And that's what has created all of the monsters that we're talking about right now.
So the Fed is trying to negotiate with the American people, right?
I don't think this is a negotiation.
I think they are.
This is a pretty one-sided discussion.
Well, it's a negotiation tactic.
This is do and they will suffer.
Well, I get that, but it's It's like, okay, if we throw out 2, right, and all of a sudden it becomes 4, right? Everybody's now. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever meet 2. I think 2 is an unrealistic number. I think everybody knows that, except for them.
Neil, this is an interesting comment. Neil Williamson, Free Enterprise Forum, President. We love Neil Williamson, support his work, President, Free Enterprise Forum. Jerry, Scott, and Keith, I'm interested in the other side of the build your way out of it discussion. If government encourages the market to build less or the same number of units, what do you predict will happen to housing prices?
Ask that question again.
I'll do specific. If government encourages the market to build less or the same units,
got it.
So
what do you predict will happen to housing prices?
Isn't the government already disincentivizing growth?
Depends on the jurisdiction. In Albemarle County, they're limiting growth to 5% of the entire area.
How long does it take
City
to
of
get
Charlottesville,
how long does it take to get a project done?
It's improved. Permitting has improved. Mm-hmm. Albemarle County, you can make a legitimate argument it's trying to limit growth. I agree there. City of Charlottesville, you can make an argument they're trying to improve growth with upzoning. And both jurisdictions, Charlottesville and Albemarle County, have improved permitting.
Their concept of growth through density is it works for units. It doesn't work for value. I think again.
What's that mean?
It means we can have more units.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Meaning we can have condos and we can have some projects that through time, this one's really nice, and then 20 years later, if it's in the right place, it's still really nice, but if it was a nice thing in a bad place, or there's any demographic shift, it's this building that's run down that nobody wants to live in and nobody wants to buy and renovate, and it becomes an eyesore. Look at every single metropolitan area that you want to model yourself after, and they're littered with them.
Keith,
So I'm going to steal a quote from Sir Neil Williamson. All this requires a ready, willing, and able seller. A seller needs to agree to sell land in order. Forget about the regulatory side of it. If you can't get a seller to agree to sell a piece of property at a reasonable price, and I know this world because I'm in it,
Yeah,
right?
you are.
So that starts there, and that is extremely difficult to do.
What's reasonable price?
It's what the math works out to be, what the market is prepared to pay for it. To directly,
Is market rate reasonable rate?
the market is the market. It's whatever the market is prepared
get
to
that.
pay
I get
at
that.
this point. But directly to Neil's question, without local governments and state governments, for that matter, we're going to have this conversation with Dave Norris on Friday, without state government encouraging or helping new construction, prices are just going to go up. I did it in an infantile way, but we are so short on units, and I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough to know that less is more. If I got less units that are coming in, my prices are going up.
You know, if
And that's
Neil,
just the way
this
it's
is-
going to be.
This is for you, Neil Williamson. Literally for you. This is for the Matthew Gillikins out there, the Neil Williamsons out there. This is for the land trusts out there, the housing advocates, the stakeholders. If you want affordability in Charlottesville City, you know how Charlottesville City gets affordability? They make Albemarle County's development area expanded. Now, Charlottesville cannot have any influence over Albemarle County whatsoever, but Charlottesville's affordability is directly tied to Albemarle County expanding its growth area.
It's a rubber band.
Because if Albemarle has a bigger growth area, we have more units, that'll create affordability for Charlottesville. Charlottesville's landlocked. It's not going to build more inventory.
Well,
It's not going to get more inventory anytime soon.
And Neil can probably have this data more than I can. I did a little bit of homework, right, on how many units sold last year, single-family detached in the city of Charlottesville that were in an HOA.
Okay?
14% of the sales last year were in an HOA. So one could assume, and I didn't do the
I love that data, by the way.
thank you. The whole count, but there's a substantial percentage of the single-family detached lots.
Do you know that answer, Neil? What percentage of Charlottesville City is HOA inventory? And finish your thought there, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, somebody, you literally have to go in and physically go through the whole thing. I just pulled a quick sale scenario. What sold last year, single-family detached, what was in an HOA. And there was 14% of the total number of sales last year were in an HOA. So those 14% are going to be excluded from any of this upzoning. So I would think that somewhere between 10 to 15% of somebody would spend days and days crunching these numbers. I'll bet you somewhere between 10 to 15% of the total number of residential lots that have single-family detached homes on it are probably in an HOA. By the way, that did not include townhomes, which automatically, they've already been multiplied already, and condos. This is just single-family detached.
That's why I've made the point for 3 years that inventory and HOA neighborhoods in the city of Charlottesville and inventory and HOA neighborhoods in Albemarle County are going to exponentially increase once upzoning becomes a reality, because people will flock to these havens of single-family detached homes, knowing they will stay the same that way.
And Scott, jump in when I'm wrong here, but only reason I'm bringing it up is there's a certain number of residential, single-family residential lots that will be automatically excluded.
Taken off the board, where the
Taken off the
opportunity
table.
does not apply.
So the fact that this rezoning, all of a sudden we're going to get these huge number of residents or units, right off the bat, we're probably 10 to 15% off, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Scott, thoughts?
Sorry, man.
So you go in and you take in the areas where some of the single family exists that could exchange, that's inventory that could continue to be exchanged, that those houses are sold, bulldozed, a larger unit's put up that is going to
But
then,
they have to be outside of an HOA to do that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But once those single families come off the board for these units, those things are going to sit forever, and there's not, they'll end up becoming more investment owned than people who are purchasing them on their own. It's just it's a common theme. Just go look anywhere else that has grown into it. You're not getting what you think you're getting.
I want to give hats off to Greene County. Some of the folks over there may not like to hear this, and particularly I know Neil's a resident of that, and Jim Friel, who's wears about 12 different hats over there. That at the moment is going to be the mecca of new construction in our area. There's about 1,800 in the pipeline that are either in the process of getting site plan approved and or built. There's potential another 500 to 1,000 that I'm aware of that are potentially working their way through the system. You're going to see Greene County be the mecca of at least new construction, I think, for a foreseeable future. They may end up putting a stop on that year because it may be too much for some folks.
They're going to have their own growing pains.
They will have their own growing pains. But at the moment, what's on the boards and what's about ready to hit the boards is going to be a substantial number, which I think is going to help relieve this a little bit. But we're years out, folks.
I got a
Years
headline
out.
for you guys. You know what was named the #1 place in America to buy a vacation beach house investment property?
The Outer Banks of North Carolina.
This is a legit question. You say OBX?
Sure.
What do you say? #1 place in America to buy a vacation beach house
So I know
based on rental performance.
You're saying beach house.
Yeah, a beach
based
house.
on rental performance. Okay,
based
got it.
on rental performance.
Because I know the #1 beach town was Cape Charles for the longest time, but this is something
Yep.
else.
2023 just came out 4 days ago. 3 days ago.
3 days ago. Apparently,
You guys should watch the I Love Seagull show.
Apparently, I didn't read it.
Both of you guys should watch the I Love Seagull.
We're busy trying to get homes under contract, sir.
According to Vacasa, which is a rental management platform,
Yeah.
I'm aware.
you know.
That's who I use them personally.
not all the folks know Vacasa. It's Lake Anna is #1.
See, you said beach house. I was
Lake
going to say
Anna,
Lake Anna. You
the
said
#1
beach house.
place.
I made you say beach house again. Beach house. It's what a trash headline.
#1 place, Lake Anna.
Misleading.
Cap rate over 12%. Median
Why-
list
why-
price
did he tell you why?
385,000.
There you go.
And listen to this. This is
That's why.
obscene. Are you ready for this? The median list price for a Lake Anna house, investment property, is under 400K. The median rental revenue, what do you think it is a year?
Revenue?
Yeah.
$40,000.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was going to say between 40 and 50.
70 G's.
Yeah, there you go.
People are buying homes for 400K, and on the median, 70,000
Does
a
it tell
year
you where
in rental income.
where the tenants are coming from primarily?
Yes, it does.
Probably
They are
Northern
coming from folks looking for shorter vacations,
Yeah, sure.
closer to home,
Yeah.
from Fredericksburg, Richmond, Northern Virginia,
that makes sense.
Washington, D.C., and Baltimore.
That makes sense.
And they're looking for short drive vacations because of expense.
That makes
with
sense.
trips.
And it's interesting. That's an interesting.
That's bananas.
Well, go back to the HOA conversation, right? Some of them are like the thing about Lake Anna. It's not like Lake Monticello. It's one huge thing. They have all these different communities that surround the lake. So I'm really curious which ones allow it and which one don't, because most HOAs do not allow short-term rentals, right? You know, I don't know of any of them off the top of my head.
I was going. Lake Anna
Cully
was.
Baggett is aware of this. He's watching.
I
He
thought
says you're
of-
blowing their mind, Jerry.
I thought I thought this was going in the Lake Anna direction. That's why I made you say beach house again. But there is starting to be some softening from Vacasa on what the rental turnout is. The last 2 years is where they're getting those numbers from. But
Well, that's what
Oh,
happened.
so you're saying those are peak COVID years?
Yeah.
So you're saying those are anomalies?
yes.
Huh. And you're saying it's softening because of the obvious headwinds, credit card debt, inflation,
Yes.
dollar not going as
and
far,
after
yada,
COVID,
yada.
everybody got to bleep out and traveled and maybe
Spent their money, blew their wad essentially. And now we're back to Americans.
Are we back on Peeping Toms?
Yeah. Now we're
and
back to
I'm
credit
not
card debt.
saying that Lake Anna is going to. I'm just saying that what they're going to see in
I'm curious what that is.
potential short-term rentals is going to decline.
Is Lake, Kevin, multiple people are saying Lake Anna's overhyped. You guys buy that?
I don't do lake stuff, so
You think it's busted because it's a lake?
it's not my thing.
It feels like Buckingham County was a year ago. And I just wrote a
What
note.
does that mean?
Well, remember a year
What
ago.
the hell does that
What that
mean?
means
Even Judith says that.
a year ago, everybody said go to Buckingham County, and that's we've looked at it. The prices have dropped, right? I think the question is what in 2023, when we have this show next year.
Will we say the same about Lake Anna?
I think
Okay.
that's in my infantile. That's twice I used
Okay.
that today, trying to get there.
Well, so you're saying no way.
I think when you see this time next year, I would not be surprised if that number is.
I mean, it
in
has some charm. Is it the largest lake in Virginia?
I think Smith Mountain is actually.
Is it?
I think Smith Mountain is.
Okay, maybe you're right. I mean, it has some charm. Lake Anna. Anyway, I thought that was a good little stat for the viewers and listeners.
There you go. It's stump the chumps kind of stuff.
This comment's come in from Jennifer. One thing that's highlighting the growth of Lake Anna is the very limited inventory.
Yeah.
That's at the lake.
Well, it's huge, and I put my boat on it a bunch of times. I personally don't care for it. I prefer to go down to Smith Mountain Lake. It's got way too many stumps in it.
I mean, you have Outer Banks. Your rental's full, right? I mean, you're year over year raising,
Yeah,
right? And you have no problem running that.
I know, not at all. But
And
so
you're not on the water, are you?
I am
You're just right off the water.
right off the water.
Yeah.
So
And you got no problem running it.
no problem at all. I don't know. I get the allure of the shorter trip, which is why I've looked at like more Eastern Shore stuff. Kinsale is a neat little town. Cape Charles, lots of different areas like that.
I have no Cape Charles well.
Your daughter's watching.
My daughter.
Yeah.
Hey, sweetheart,
She's
how you
leaving
doing?
comments.
She's leaving comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did she say?
And she says, I thought the show was supposed to end at 11, Dad.
No.
I said 11:30.
No.
I said-
Actually, technically 11:15.
I said I put in air quotes.
I don't think I've ever left earlier than 11:30. So
I put in air
Technically,
quotes.
we're only supposed to go to 11.
He persuaded us to go to 11:30 each day. Technically, according to the contract, it was a 45-minute show.
That's what I said, 11:15. No, that would be 11.
Yeah, that would be 11.
Go spreadsheet,
That
Smith.
would be 11. That would be 11. How many years have we been doing this?
Yeah, long enough.
Okay.
What contract? We don't got a contract.
4 or 5 years.
Badges? I don't need no stinking badges.
Titles. Executive producer? I don't need no titles.
I've lost that title a long time ago.
You are the executive producer.
She is in Leavenworth, West Washington right now.
Ask her a question. Contribute to the show.
yeah.
You were great on the show, by the way.
She was, and nothing. Both my daughters are out there, so they're out having Leavenworth, having fun. Leavenworth is a cute little town. It was a logging town that went downhill, and somebody decided to turn it into a Bavarian village, and it's this cool little Bavarian village. It's actually really cool.
Bavarian.
It looks
Village.
just
Are
like
they
if you were
wearing like
Lederhosen.
Yeah,
It's called
yeah.
Lederhosen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a pair. You got a problem with that?
I don't. Hey, I'm
Okay. But it's a great little town. It's cute as all heck, and they do a great Christmas time. I've been there.
She is jabbing you a little bit.
Of course.
What do you think she's jabbing you on?
The list is long.
The time, the fact that you're often very tardy. And
Hey, honey.
I responded in jest. I've seen it firsthand with the show over the 4 years.
I'll expect you when I see you coming.
The 3 days a week I spend with your father.
Oh, I'm
for-
pretty good on showing up. Maybe a couple minutes late every once in a while. Well, no, I used to leave them at the daycare.
How's the mood? How's the spirit?
There you
Your
go.
dad has very well done a very good job of documenting your home search with your husband, your beautiful daughter. How's the job hunt? How's your spirit?
Are you in the game still?
You're 11 offers in. You're now on offer 12. How is the
we're not there yet.
the mindset? Are you dispirited? Are you excited? I mean, where's the mindset at? I'm curious. And I also want to give your
And
family.
is the agent any good that you're working with?
She says he's got great hair.
Yeah, there you go.
I actually said that.
Shows up late all the time.
I'm also curious in your mindset of putting an offer on a house when you live in Seattle and you've never walked through the house. You've only seen it via virtual tour, and you put in an offer $75,000 above ask with no home inspection. I'm curious of the mindset there.
And her situation is a little unique because she's got my eyeballs on it, right, on that end of it. To be honest with you, if we were going to win that deal, they were going to. I already asked Yvonne. I said, if we win this, and if the next one we win, they're going to fly over. I want her to fly over, and we're going to go get into that home and bring a home inspector. It's not going to be part of the loan of the contract process, but we're going to get into that house and take a look-see at it just to make sure, if there's anything they need to repair, they know what it is before they actually take possession of it. But if she comes down in April, having her on set to answer this question,
Oh yeah, you should.
and she'll do it. She'll bring little people and the little person, and I'll sit the little person on my lap, and we'll have our granddaughter number 2 on site. But they have the right attitude, and that's the attitude that one should have. And she's also learning because she's studying for her real estate license.
She says she trusts her realtor.
That was a mistake.
I trust my realtor. And Neil
She
says,
must be talking about mom.
Neil says, for the record, fellas, the 10 biggest lakes in Virginia. Number 1 is Kerr Lake, measuring a wide area of 50,000 acres. Kerr Lake is the biggest lake in Virginia. 2, Smith Mountain Lake, created in 1963. Smith Mountain Lake is the second biggest lake, and 3 is Lake Gaston. So Kerr Lake 1, Smith Mountain Lake 2, Lake Gaston 3.
Where's Lake Anna on that list?
I don't think Lake Anna's on the list.
Didn't even make
Neil
it.
was very kindly saying there's not a chance in hell that it was ranked in the top 2, 3, or 4. That's what he was doing there. But he did it in a very kind way.
There you go. Well, Neil always does things
He does.
in a kind way.
We appreciate the sincerity and the authenticity of what you share on the show.
Thank you.
I think it really humanizes what you have to say and builds a sense of trust with you and the viewers and listeners, because you're talking about stuff that not only is your job, but it's your family. And that's not always easy to do.
I'm not encumbered by that. I don't mean that arrogantly.
No, I know. It's great.
We're pretty much an open book. There's nothing to hide here. We're very open, and Scott knows that. He's been around my family long enough to know that that's kind of way life is. We're very open. We don't keep anything hidden. But it's funny. I was having this conversation. My uncle chimed in the other day, and he called me last night, and he was watching one of our shows and said thank you for because he's thinking about moving and so forth and so on, and the stuff that that we were talking about was very, very helpful. For me, I sit here and look at you and look at Scott, and I don't know who we're talking to. I don't know who we're touching, right? But I get these texts and these phone calls and these emails from folks, and it's just awe-inspiring. I'm flattered. I'm honored. I frankly don't know what to do. I don't take praise very well, even though I can do this publicly, but I don't take patting on the back very well. It's just the way I am.
Please stop complimenting me.
Yeah,
Please stop.
I know.
That's how I live my life.
Scott does
You get
not
that
want
often,
to
don't you?
Yeah.
You're so awesome.
No,
Please
thank
stop
you.
complimenting
I love
me.
Scott so much.
Right.
Scott does
Get
not.
me a contract. That's how you
Scott does not want the compliments. Scott,
I don't know about that. You take compliments well, do you? Yeah.
Scott, I spent 1 day a week with Scott for how long have we been doing it with you on the show?
Over a year.
A year. Well, probably close to 2 years.
And
on and off.
it's been fantastic. Scott has the gift of being able to do a lot of things at one time, which I think is a talent.
So the question is,
I think he does. I think he does do it well. I think he does do it well.
I just couldn't.
I think he can do 3 things, 4 things really, really well at one time.
Well,
You're
know,
managing your team. You're offering contract and structure advice, all while doing the show.
so my team does a great job on their own. They are
We should spotlight your team.
biggest compliment to them. So
Why don't we create a piece of content that spotlights the Ross Mortgage team here locally, Scott?
Okay. Yeah. So here locally, we've got John Snow here in Charlottesville, who does a fantastic job. Then Tova Payne in Culpeper, along with myself, and I'm kind of in Culpeper here and Richmond. I try to put some face time in all places. Cecily Williamson, who does some of the marketing stuff for the team, and other agents. Anybody who needs anything, whatever that's a video piece created or some help, some guidance there, she's a huge, huge resource. And Kyle Williamson is my sales manager. So everything that comes in, he's kind of air traffic control inside the shop for making sure that if there's any problems, questions, or answers that need to be delivered, that whoever needs to be handing that information out or receiving it, it's getting to the right place.
Ross Mortgage, they are truly an impressive operation. He's growing. He is absolutely growing. And are you looking to grow the team?
Me? Yeah. If you are an LO who's looking for a place to go because you're unhappy with where you are, give me a call. Let's have a talk. I can promise you that I've got more resources than what you're already receiving, and our pricing is great. And if there's anything that you need as an individual, I'm happy to help you on a coaching level. If it's accountability, just showing you where to go, make calls, what do you need to do, we got a path for you.
You know, and the loan officer is very much, in a lot of ways, the mindset of a small business owner.
Oh, absolutely. Like, well, and you're not just running your business; you're helping your partners operate theirs. So your success is found in the success of others. If you've got agents out there that are struggling from, what do I do? Where do I go? You need to be you need to be able to help them. You need to provide some sort of value in order to help them grow their business.
You're 100% right. We see this on our end of it. Coaching and mentoring is now the thing everybody wants, as they should have, right?
It is.
You know,
there's another side of that coin that I'm not a fan of, and that is people who all of a sudden they've done a little bit of business and now everybody's a coach.
I knew he was going to go that way.
But you have not done a little bit of business.
No, and I don't.
We have done 35 years of business.
I don't mean that about you. I mean, if you were looking on the internet,
it's for the gram.
Yeah.
It's for the gram.
Yeah.
The title for the gram.
But it's a real thing now. That's the folks that have been in the business for a while that don't know how to do business in this marketplace needs coaching and mentoring on how to help them through that. And that is, maybe Yvonne might say this, but what's one of the things that she constantly tells me, thank you, because I'm bringing 35 years of experience of how to do this, where we're constantly trying to adjust and move forward and coach them through this particular process, because that's what it takes to go ahead and do it. And I was trying to give you a shout out. If you're an LO, a loan officer out there that needs some help, to figure out how to do this in today's market, you're the guy to talk to.
we just covered I don't do compliments well. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Scott is a good leader. We'll leave it at that. He's a good leader at Ross Mortgage. He's a good leader. Scott and Keith have decades of history.
Yeah, think.
They're family. They're undoubtedly family. All right, how about some closing?
There's little ears watching because I can't tell you what I really am thinking.
Oh, I know. I deserve that one, too.
Keith Smith, some closing thoughts for our friends, viewers and listeners.
We kind of talk about the struggles, right? But stay in the game, guys. Be that Michael Jordan that's making those 10,000 shots.
Explore all your options. Look at all your maybe you can look at another target to go after inside of the same area if you can expand on what would get your deal done.
Brian asks, is there a radius that your son-in-law has to be within his job?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's a doctor thing.
That's why folks are asking about the tight circumference or the tight area.
It's a doctor thing.
Most of the doctors have to be within, is it 35 miles?
I believe it's 30 minutes.
30 minutes, okay.
Yeah, so that doesn't quite correlate to miles on that end of it. But look, just to kind of chat a little bit about them real quick and just kind of wrap up on that, because the question was asked, should we just stop and rent for a year?
I think I asked that.
No, from them to me.
Right, and I also asked that on the show.
And the answer today is no. Maybe in August, if we don't, then we got to really
I mean,
start.
the market may
start
be
looking.
really different in 1 year.
I don't think it's going down though. So it's an ever chasing ball going forward.
To Scott's point, if in 1 year rates are 1.5 or 2 points lower, the buying power is greater.
Without a doubt, for every point drop down, you can do what?
To Keith's point, countering what I just said, 12 months from now, we may have 10 or 12% more value appreciation, which is going to take some of the gains away from the 1.5
More
drop.
people that are going to dive back
Right.
in the thing.
It's a mess, man. This is a mess.
But it's also a cash problem too,
I totally get it.
because we
And
look.
it's also a location problem. The location that you guys are targeting,
But this is
It's
not
one of the hottest.
exclusive.
So
this
I
is
sent you an article on something that we had talked about last week.
it was
and-
fantastic, that article.
And it part of what we're talking about, and Jerry saying, well, in a year, could we have more inventory? And the short answer to that is no, because there's a part of the trap is there are people who bought at 3% who wouldn't qualify at 5%, so they couldn't sell, take their proceeds, put it down, and be in a better place. They would just have more expensive, so it wouldn't make sense for them to make that move to begin with.
And it would extend, and to his point, it would extend the mortgage 30 years, and it would uptick the debt service. So you would go from a longer mortgage and a greater monthly payment to basically a lateral move. It would be a lateral move. It may even be a downward move.
So
Longer mortgage, more debt payment, crappier house.
So we don't have enough homes. We're anywhere between 4 and 6 million short, figure, whichever math you want to use. The 2% to 3%, unless they have to move, aren't moving. So inventory's getting tighter. And we looked at it for their marketplace. They'll blow 40 grand in cash for 1 year. So get into something that maybe not be your forever home, but get started. You talk about
How's it 40 grand?
There's over $3,000 a month for rental in the areas that they need to be in over there.
Plus
I'm not that smart, but that's pretty close to 40 grand,
Yeah,
depending.
then the moving costs, yeah.
The moving costs, you got to move twice.
Yeah, paying, yeah.
You
totally.
know,
That's
blah,
40
blah,
grand.
blah, blah, and you're losing, and you're chasing an ever increasing dollar
Target.
value.
Yeah, there you go. Real talk with Keith Smith, guys.
Buy a home.
Buy a home. Buy a home if you learned something. And if you buy a house, do it with Keith as your realtor and with Scott financing it for you.
I actually do this for a living.
He does it for a living, both these guys. Scott, Ross Mortgage, Keith, Yes Realty Partners, Judah Wickhauer, Director. I'm Jerry Miller. I Love Seville Show, 1 hour. Thank you kindly for joining us. Take care. That was a good show.
Thanks, Scott.
Excellent work.
You're welcome.
Peeping Tom.
Yeah. Nicely done, boys.